Welcome to the Workology podcast, where we discuss the science and art of the workplace, gain powerful insights, resources, and perspectives on the industries of human resources and recruiting. Join your host, Jessica Miller-Merrill, chief blogger of bloggingforjobs.com, for an in-depth and no-holds-barred look into the future of our most powerful business asset, the employee. And now, welcome your host, Jessica, with this podcast episode of Workology.
Welcome to the Workology podcast, and thank you for making us part of your week. The job market is hot right now, and companies are looking for creative ways not just to entice candidates to come and work for their organization, but also retain them. And it's not stopping. Economic experts are considering and thinking that the job market that we're currently in will continue on into 2017. As of June 2009, there were 6.2 unemployed persons per job posting. Today, there are only 1.7. Trying to engage the passive job seeker or the active job seeker and also look at retaining your workforce is something that we're all thinking about these days. Today, I'm talking with an organization that's doing something really innovative in a way of retaining and then enticing new hires to come and work for their company. And that company is Think Parallax. They're a creative agency in Encinitas, California. This company gives employees a $1,500 amount to take a trip anywhere in the world to spark inspiration. Today, I'm talking to an employee of Parallax, Think Parallax. It's their graphic designer, Maddie Lochte, who has made one of these trips. Maddie, welcome to the Workology podcast.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks so much for having me.
Let's talk a little about you. What's your background? How long have you been with Think Parallax, and how big is the organization?
Well, I'm originally from the Bay Area, and I moved to San Diego in 2007 to go to San Diego State University. I got hired at Think Parallax almost immediately after graduating, and I've been here ever since. So it's been about 3 years. And I am a graphic designer, so I do branding, print, interactive design for our wide variety of clients. But since we're kind of a small company, we only have about 12 employees. We all end up wearing a lot of hats and supporting one another as much as we can. So I'm also Think Parallax's unofficial event planner, and I make sure that we always have something fun and exciting to look forward to or do together to build team camaraderie, like going to baseball games or participating in fun in-office competitions like March Madness or our recently concluded Fantasy Bachelorette League.
What is Fantasy Bachelorette League? Tell us about that.
That's the television show, The Bachelorette, so we all did sort of like a March Madness style pool to guess who would win that competition. So we're always just trying to do fun things like that in the office here to make everybody get involved together and have team bonding, things like that.
I gotcha. I'm thinking of March Madness. I'm thinking, wow, is that something that I hadn't heard of? I wonder if anybody else does that. Have you ever heard of company programs or like sort of things like the Bachelorette program that you're describing that are being done at other organizations?
Yeah, I think at a lot of creative agencies, there tends to be things like that kind of get their employees involved in a creative way so that it's not just such a static work environment, just things that aren't related to work, so it's kind of a break from the 9-to-5 grind.
I like that idea. That would require me to watch the Bachelorette, but maybe there's other reality shows that a team or an organization or somebody's interested in that they can sort of have a little bit of fun collaboration together.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your recent inspiration trip. So you took one of these trips that Think Parallax offers, and kind of walk us through a little bit about what exactly they do, and then tell us where you went.
So this year I decided to go to Seattle for my Parallax exploration trip. And I guess it would make sense to start by explaining sort of the parameters for these trips. So the basic parameters are that we are given one extra paid day off outside of our accrued vacation hours and $1,500 to travel somewhere that we've never been before, get inspired, and bring that inspiration back to share with the office. So this year we actually added a couple of new parameters as well, which were that we had to take this trip by ourselves, and we also had to spend some of our time there doing some form of social good, whether that was giving back to the community, helping with conservation efforts, or working with at-risk youth, or anything else that we could think of that would have a positive impact on the place we were visiting. So as far as why I picked Seattle goes, I realized that while I've traveled to many places outside of the US, I haven't spent a whole lot of time exploring my own country. And I've always been intrigued by Seattle's creative culture and heard so many great things about the city and the people who live there. I also wanted to do my best to stick to the budget and the timeline parameters, even though we are welcome to exceed those if we want to contribute to the trip with our own money and vacation hours. So I saw that as an intriguing challenge, and I was curious if I'd be able to pull off an exciting and inspiring adventure with only 3 days and $1,500. Lastly, I kind of wanted to travel somewhere that I knew I would feel safe given the requirement that we travel alone. I've never been to a new city completely on my own, and I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't limit my experience because I was feeling nervous about being out and about on my own.
So what kind of things did you do while you were in Seattle?
While I was there, I stayed at 3 different Airbnbs while I was there so that I was sort of forced to meet new people and get in touch with the locals and kind of get a more authentic experience. So I went out on one couple's boat out on Lake Union and had some barbecues with locals, and I saw some cultural things. Like I went to the public library, which is a beautiful structure there, and I just kind of got really deep into the local culture, ate a lot of restaurants, and saw pretty much everything there was to see, Pike Place Market, all the tourist places, but really just kind of pushed myself outside of my comfort zone by traveling alone and forcing myself to meet new people.
Did you find your trip inspiring? And then if so, hopefully yes, how did you take that back to the workplace?
I definitely did find the trip to be inspiring, and in more so than just a like direct way of like finding creative inspiration, it's inspiring to just get out on your own, and it makes you feel empowered and more confident. So I brought those feelings back to the workplace with me, the feelings of being able to do something that maybe I didn't think I was able to do before, like traveling alone. That's not something that I ever thought that I would do, but getting out there and seeing how easy it was and how much success that I had with it, that definitely made me feel empowered in the workplace. And then beyond that, just taking the time outside of work to go somewhere and see a new place helps prevent burnout at work. So it brought me back into the office feeling a lot more refreshed and revitalized, which definitely improved my relationships in the office with my coworkers and also outside of the office with clients. And it made me feel ready to put my best foot forward and put my all into the work that I'm doing here in the office.
Why in the world do you think your employer would give you guys or give employees an opportunity to go on a free trip like this?
I think there are a lot of reasons why an employer would want to participate in a program like this. Many companies set aside a budget each year for their employees' professional development anyway, which is something that Think Parallax did before redirecting that budget into the Parallel Exploration Program, which we ended up finding to be a lot more successful. So the benefits of a program like this are countless. Nearly half of Americans let some or all of their paid vacation days go unused each year, which is unfortunate because, like I was mentioning, taking a break from the office is so important to combat burnout. And Parallel Exploration Program makes sure that all of the employees here at Think Parallax are taking that time for themselves that they deserve. We've had 100% participation in the program by having a timeline that the trips must be taken during, and aiding us financially to make sure that we can afford to take a trip, and creating an environment that ensures that we don't feel guilty for taking that time off since we're all participating in this together. I know that's one thing that definitely prevents a lot of people from taking their vacation time, is they feel like if they leave the office, they're like leaving their coworkers high and dry. Because we're all doing this, we know that we're all in it together and we're not sort of putting our coworkers in a tough spot. Other things, while we're out of the office, we get to experience a new culture, see unique parts of the world that spark our creativity and force us to problem solve, boost our confidence, like I was saying, and generally set us up for success back at work. Not everything can be learned at a workshop or a lecture, and getting out into the world to dive into the unknown teaches us life skills that we might not be able to pick up from within 4 walls. And creating a uniquely positive program like this is also beneficial for making us feel valued as employees, which definitely aids not only in employee retention, but it makes Think Parallax an attractive workplace for prospective employees. Every time I tell friends or family about the trips that I've gone on, their response is always like, "Oh my gosh, is your company hiring? It sounds too good to be true." And I definitely feel that same way too. It does seem almost too good to be true, but it makes us feel really valued, and I think that's most important, because even if you have a great salary and benefits, you definitely want to feel like you matter. That's probably the most important thing to me, and the Parallel Exploration Program definitely makes me feel like I matter.
Well, let's take a little bit of a reset here. This is Jessica Miller-Merrill, and you're listening to the Workology podcast powered by Blogging for Jobs. We're talking today with Maddie Locht, She's a graphic designer with Think Parallax. They're a creative agency in Encinitas, California, and they're doing something kind of crazy, a little out of the box, but I'm kind of digging it. It sounds really great. They're giving employees $1,500 and an extra day off to cover their travel expenses, and they can travel anywhere in the world that they want to. They're doing this so their employees gain new perspectives and inspirations. You can follow them on Instagram, and it is just Think Parallax, ThinkParallax. Well, let's get back to it. Are you planning, or have you thought about your next trip, where you're going and maybe what you're doing?
I haven't yet. If we are lucky enough to get to do this for a third year, then I think I'll just kind of think about it when it happens. That's kind of the beauty of these trips, is that it's sort of spontaneous, and you get to think outside the box and not feel so planned, and not do something that maybe you've been planning your whole life, because you have the aid of the $1,500 budget and all these things. So it doesn't feel like something that you need to really like plan for a year and save up money for. It's sort of this exciting, spontaneous thing that we get to do.
Do you think that this has changed maybe how you view your employer, or maybe increased the loyalty that you have for the organization because they're doing something kind of different and unique to offer you like an incentive or a growth or developmental opportunity?
Yeah, I definitely think so. As I was mentioning before, it makes us feel really valued as employees, which is invaluable to feel valued as an employee. We all come back feeling like our bosses really care about us, and like we want to do our best work for them, and that has sort of a trickle-down effect from happy employee to happy clients, where us having positive feelings about our job makes us want to perform at our best for our employers. And then having the drive for success translates to better work products, because I'm putting all my work into each or all my best work into each new task that I'm given, which then in turn makes our clients happy because they're receiving such a great high standard of work, and in turn ensures their repeat business and a happier bottom line.
Does everyone get to go on a trip like this? You mentioned that there's 20 employees in the organization, and you said this kind of happens at different times of year. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so everybody does get to go on one of these trips. There's no competition within the office, like, you know, if you win some sort of contest, you get to go on the trip and everybody else doesn't. We all get to do it. We all get to do it at its own time. So each trip gets sort of the attention that it deserves. We're not overlapping with one another and competing for attention while we're gone. So it's a timeline between June and November that we all go on these trips, and we each take however much time we want. As I mentioned, we get the one extra paid day off, but we are allowed to take extra time and use our own vacation hours if we want to do that. So one person will go on their trip, and before they go, we don't know where anyone's going on their trip. We have to keep it a secret from everybody else in the office. And then we make sort of an in-office competition to guess where each person is going, which makes it a lot of fun and keeps everybody really excited and engaged with the program. And then once one person goes on their trip, they begin to post clues on our Instagram and Facebook accounts of where they are, photo clues, and we look at those photos and we try to band together and figure out where that person is based on the clues that they're posting. And once we guess where they are, then they are free to post anything they want to post. We have a few photos that we are tasked to receive, like a photo of you at the airport and a photo of you in front of a landmark that shows where you are. But then other than that, you kind of just have free reign to post photos of anything that you find inspiring or exciting. And so the whole time that you're gone, you continue to post these photos, a couple a day, just kind of showing what your trip was like. And then you return to the office. And when you get back to the office, you share your photos and sort of a recap of what you did and what insights you could take away and what inspired you with the office. And then the next person goes.
What's the work culture like there?
Surrounding Parallax Exploration or just in general?
Just in general. I mean, it sounds like to me that it's a fun, really close-knit group, and you guys work really well together.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. I think because we are such a small office, everybody really interacts with one another, and also because we work in one big open space together, we don't have cubicles or anything like that. So it's a very open and collaborative work environment, and everyone really gets along well. And it's always been a really great work environment here and a great work culture, but I think that Parallax Exploration has only improved upon that because of the things like sort of bonding that we get over trying to guess where everybody's going and over sharing our experiences after the trip. It sort of just creates this one shared thing that we all have that we can sort of communicate about and bond further about. So another benefit is that it provides an opportunity for all of us to band together to cover for whoever is away exploring at any given time. So if a designer is out of the office, the other 3 designers team up to make sure everything gets complete despite that person's absence. So rather than having to feel guilty for taking time off, I felt confident knowing that while I was gone, the team at home was holding down the fort just like I would if someone else were gone.
And no random work phone calls or emails while you're on your trip.
No, none of that. So we all do our best to turn off our email and not pay attention to anything that's going on in the office and just really invest in the trip and the time that we have outside of the office.
Well, Maddie, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I have one more question for you. There's been a lot of talk about happiness in the workplace, that it makes you a more productive, a more engaged employee. Do you think that happier employees make for happier clients and then is impacting like the success of the organization?
Yeah, definitely. As I was mentioning before, the trickle-down effect between a happy employee and happy clients is that when the employees are feeling happy, they want to be doing their best work. If you're not happy at work, you're kind of just going to try to get through the day and not put your all into everything that you're doing. But when you feel valued at work and you feel happy about the place that you're working, it makes you want to do your best for that company. So feeling valued because of a program like Parental Exploration brings me back into the office wanting to be at my best and wanting to create the best work that I can. So our clients will inevitably be happier receiving work that is of a higher caliber because of the effort that I have been inspired to put into my work, knowing that I work at a place that values me as an employee so much.
Well, thank you. We'll be linking to the Parental Exploration program and the spotlight on Maddie so you can learn more about her and the organization as a whole, and certainly their Instagram and their Facebook accounts, because maybe we, as outsiders who are interested in what you guys are doing, can participate in trying to guess where the next trip is. Sounds very cool. I want to thank Maddie for joining us, and I also want to thank everyone else for listening in. This is Jessica Miller-Merrill, and this is the Workology podcast, where we discuss the science and art of the workplace HR and recruitment. Until next time, you can visit Blogging for Jobs to listen to all our previous Workology podcast episodes.
Production services for the Workology podcast with Jessica Miller-Merrill provided by Total Picture Media.